Good afternoon and welcome to today's Wednesday webinar brought to you by IPDAY, Right On from Scribbles to Scores. My name is Megan Duke and I'm an IPDAY SME subject matter expert. I also work at Indian River State College within the Adult Education Department. Just a few things to remember or housekeeping. If you have any questions in regards to the content, please type it in the Q&A section. I will be monitoring that throughout today's webinar. Please remember that attendees are in listen-only mode and your microphones are muted. Today's presentation is being recorded, so some of the handouts and things are already posted on IPDAY's website, and the recording for today will be up within 48 hours. So again, we welcome you. Here is today's agenda. I encourage you, as we're looking over today's agenda, it's always fun to see our colleagues from across the state and at other institutions joining in. It's a great way to connect and to collaborate. So in the chat, please put your name and what institution or school you are representing. I would love to hear from you all. So I see Chris from Tallahassee State. Hi, Chris. So I'll also read over today's agenda while the rest of you are dropping your names in the chat. We're going to be talking about the GED writing, so understanding the GED extended response, breaking down the GED writing rubric. So we're going to take a look at the rubric. Analyzing high, mid, and low scoring essays, using GED.com score reports to improve or to align instruction. We're going to discuss some instructional strategies that improve writing performance and practice prompts and classroom applications. And then, of course, we'll wrap up with some key takeaways. We're going to be talking a lot in the chat today. I want this to be collaborative. We all are experts in our own way in these subjects. So it's a great way for us to learn from each other and not just the speaker of the webinar. So I see we also have Kathy, Ann. We have some people joining from Miami. I see Renee Mosley, see Dana from Broward. So welcome. I appreciate all of you saying hello. I have somebody from NYC. Welcome. Somebody from Pensacola. So let's just go ahead and we'll dive into today's content, which is a deep dive into the GED writing extended response. Okay. So what do you already know about? So we're just going to take a few things. You can just answer these questions in the chat. Let's please look at question number 1. It says this has been debated between me and my colleagues a couple months ago, which kind of drove me to want to create a resource to share and learn some more myself. So question 1. How many points can a student earn on the writing portion of the GED RLA Reasoning Through Language Arts Extended Response? So answers in the chat. How many questions or how many points can they earn? 6. I see Allison, Kathy, Elena, 6. That is correct. And we're going to look at the rubric in just a few minutes where you can see that broken down a little bit more. But per the resources on GED.com, there are 6 points that a student can earn. Okay. Question number 2. Students are asked to write an opinion to analyze arguments using text evidence essays. Is that true or false? Are they using writing an opinion paper with text evidence? The correct answer is true. I see Kathy and Amanda. I think some others jumped in there. Yes, they are writing an opinion essay based on text evidence. And again, we'll look at that a little bit further in a moment. And then last question, how many minutes are testers provided or the students provided to read the text with the different opinions, make a plan, write and edit their response. Amanda is on a roll. I also see Destin, Dana, some other people jumping in. That is correct. They are given 45 minutes. 45 minutes. So it's worth 6 points. They're going to write an opinion essay based on text evidence, and they're going to be provided 45 minutes to read, plan, write, and edit. So students can earn up to 6 points in the following categories. So over on the left-hand side here in yellow, they get up to 2 points for creation of their arguments. They get 2 points for organization and structure, so developing those ideas, but in an organized and structured way. And then they get 2 points for trait number 3 when it comes to clarity and command of standard English conventions. So talking about grammar. All test takers are required to write a 4 to 7 paragraph opinion essay using text evidence from the passages they are provided. So they're usually provided 2 passages, and the passages are on usually like a hot topic that's usually easily to debate, and they have to pick one side of the debated argument to determine who had the stronger arguments. And we're going to talk about some ways to present that and some instructional strategies to help students with that. So as we said already, right here on the right-hand side, students are provided with 45 minutes to complete the writing portion of the RLA subtest. And oftentimes it's a long test, so they get to the end, and now all of a sudden they have to write this essay. So they have to be able to read the 2 texts, plan their response, write, and edit. So my question for you, please answer in the chat, what kind of feedback are you getting from your students when you tell them that they have to write an essay? Some students really like the idea of it, in my experience. Some are very overwhelmed at first when you tell them. Anna says panic. Yes, for sure. And understandably, they've already taken a long test where they've done a lot of reading comprehension. Their brain and their body's already taxed, and now they have to write this essay. I see people saying they're scared, they're unsure, there's not enough time, especially for students, they have their educational experiences, whether it's been a while since they've been in school or it's been recent. What is the expectation? I saw someone kind of allude to that. What do they want from me? So we're going to talk a little bit about that. Let's move forward here and see what we can do or what we're already doing to help our students. So we're going to break down the rubric here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you GEDs.com, because that's like, I always kind of use the saying, go straight to the horse's mouth. They're taking the GED test. Let's go to GED.com and let's see what resources they have for me to share with my students and share within my classroom. So we can drop, this will be on the handout as well, but I went right over to GED.com's website. So hopefully you can see my screen here. There are many, many instructional videos that tell the students explicitly what they want them to do. Okay, so what's the format, how to pass it, how to figure out which position is best. So remember, we said they're going to get 2 pieces of text, or as you know, they're going to get 2 pieces of text. How do I determine which text has the better supported argument? Okay, how to write a well-supported argument, writing a body and conclusion, an introduction, how to check and revise. And what I really love about these is they're short. So you can chunk this throughout your class day or throughout several different lessons during your reading instructional time. And it's not going to it breaks it down again, because we were saying they're scared, they're panicked. Our students are overwhelmed. So I love GED.com here because they're already breaking it and chunking it into small bite-sized pieces that we can use. Plus, we're not having to kind of reinvent the wheel here. We're going straight to GED.com and we're seeing what they want. Also down here at the bottom, and I've already downloaded these resources, there's also a little bit more information about the answer guidelines. You can print this out and give it to your students, or you can put it on, embedded into your lesson that day. So we're going to look at the answer guidelines for just a moment. Then we'll come back and look at this other resource that they've provided. So here is the answer guidelines right off of GED.com. And I hope you can see this okay. Kind of try to zoom in a little bit. But again, this is in our handout as well, and you'll have access on IPDay's website to get the link here. So please note that this task must be completed in 45 minutes. So it tells the students explicitly, plan your response before you begin writing. So come up with a few quick ideas before you start writing, so you kind of have guidelines to keep you on task. It tells them that they need to write 4 to 7 paragraphs, 3 to 7 sentences each. So some of our students, as Ramon said in the chat, they like to write. This is exciting for them. But for some of ours that this is intimidating, or they don't feel like that they have enough time, tell them you have to write 4 paragraphs with 3 to 7 sentences. So 4 paragraphs with 4 sentences each. And we're going to kind of help talk about some strategies to help them get those things that they need to get the score with shorter sentences and shorter paragraphs, if that's the way that they want to go. It's also going to talk about the argumentation, how the authors use these strategies to convey his or her positions. So we're going to talk about instructional strategies and activities that you might be able to do to help them figure out who has a better argument. Why does they have a better argument? Okay, so again, which position, this is number 4, the first point there, determine which position presents a better supported argument. We need text evidence. We need those details. We don't want to look at opinions. We want to look at facts, and kind of how you can preface this writing with teaching fact and opinion, or bias, which is also in the GED social studies. It's 2 for 1. So explain why the position you choose is better supported. Remember, the better supported position is not solely the position you agree with. So that's something that I heavily talk about with my students. You don't have to agree with it. The point is not to prove your argument. The point is to prove which one has a better argument based on text evidence. So we kind of talk about that. Defending your assertion, build your main points thoroughly. So very explicitly state your opinion of who has the better argument and why. You want to organize your responses carefully. We're going to talk about that as well. Building clear paragraphs with transitional words, which is the next point. Transitional words and phrases, meaning my first point, or to start with, secondly, next, lastly. We want them using that because not only is that part of what they're looking for, but it's also part of the rubric as well. Transitioning not only from one paragraph to another, but also transitioning ideas. We want to make sure we're very clear in how we organize our ideas, that the topic of all of our ideas are together and not spread throughout. Okay, so going back to GED.com, the example of a perfect score. So I absolutely love this. It gives us an example of a perfect score, but it also gives the students the instructions of what exactly it's going to look like. This is exactly what their screen is going to look like when they go to take the RLA test. When they get to the writing portion, they're going to see this: read the 2 texts, analyze, write. Again, they have 45 minutes. And then it's actually going to provide you with 2 texts, or provide the students with 2 texts. So this is a great opportunity to allow them to practice. So there's passage A. Here's passage B, but then it shows them a perfect score. And we're going to look at the rubric in just a few minutes, but this is a great way for them to kind of look over this, but then go and look at the rubric. So the rubric is actually down here at the bottom where we said it was worth 6 points. We can see right here, trait 1, 2 score points out of 2 possible. So the writer developed an argument using evidence from the passage. That's trait 1, 2 points. And here's some examples of how this specific practice writing did that. This is where they got those points from. Then we go to trait 2. 2 points out of 2 points. The writer develops his or her idea in an organized way. So having all of, if I believe that this is a reason that the author really supported their argument, keeping all the ideas on that topic in one sentence or in one paragraph. Again, using those transitional phrases, but also quoting text from the original writer. One example, another example. The article states, author 1 says, the writer of text 1 says. So using that text evidence. And then trait 3, which is also 2 points out of 2 points, the writer follows rules of the English language. So talking about the sentence structure, talking about the grammar, talking about spelling, punctuation, which we're going to hit on here again in a few minutes. Okay. So I'm going to head back to my PowerPoint here, but please, GED.com is a wealth of information for the students, but also us as administrators and instructors to make sure we're pinpointing exactly the writing criteria that our students are expected to follow. Okay. All right. My apologies. I went back to the beginning. So here is where we just left off. And again, I apologize. All right, so analyzing a high, mid, and low scoring essay. So we just talked about the 3 different traits or characteristics that they are looking for. So I'm just gonna go back a couple slides just so you can kind of reset your mind on that. We just looked at the rubric on a perfect score, where the perfect score section was, and it says that we're going to have 6 total points. We're gonna have 2 points for creation of argument, 2 points for the development of ideas and organizational structure, and then 2 points for clarity and command of standard English conventions, okay, the spelling and the grammar. So I want to go and show you another example writing. And I just want to give you a few moments. There's these 2 paragraphs, and then there's 2 more short paragraphs. What we're going to do is we're going to kind of read over it, keeping those 3 traits in mind, and we're actually going to grade this student's essay. So this was a sample in my classroom. There are mistakes here. So it's not that I can't spell or that I, can't write a structured sentence. I expect for there to be issues in that regard. But thinking back to the rubric, let's just breeze over this just a moment. I'll move the slide in a minute, and we're going to grade this essay together. So looking at these first 2 paragraphs and reflecting on those traits, positive or negative, what are some things that stand out to you on these first 2 paragraphs? Is there anything that stands out to you? in regards to conventions or organization or argument? Put that in the chat. Yeah. Elena says more description rather than analysis. So just describing what issue they're talking about instead of analyzing who had the better argument. Very good. I see punctuation problems. There's spelling problems. Maurice asked a fantastic question. Is the writing required or is it optional? It is part of a 200 is a perfect score on the RLA subtest. 200 is the perfect score and writing is 6 points. So if they choose not to do it, they are forfeiting those 6 points. So we just have to preface it that way. You know you're going to get 0 out of 6 points if you don't do it at all. If you try, you have the opportunity to at least get 6 points. And the whole kind of background, the reason why I decided to share this webinar and these resources, because at least we can give students a few things, like prescriptive things, using transitions, sentence stems, things like that, to at least help them get a couple of points on the books. It's a great question. Fragmented sentence, there is no thesis statement. So let's look at the next 2 paragraphs on the next slide. Just go ahead and take a chance to breeze over that, please. Again, this is a student sample, so I expect there to be errors. Thank you for already giving feedback. I would agree. There's grammar issues, but it's a little bit better with my transitions. And then I heard someone say we're kind of going back and forth with the different ideas, going from one side of the opinion to the other. Also punctuation, we have quotes from the text, but there's no kind of periods or commas here, maybe some capitalization. So really something that we want to discuss with the students. There's only 2 paragraphs, which is correct. There's only 2 body paragraphs. So we have, and this is one whole essay. We have the introduction, of course, and the body paragraph 1. Then we have body paragraph 2. Then we have last but not least, which maybe should be reason 3. Maybe last but not least is not the best use of a transition into a body paragraph, maybe into a conclusion. So absolutely. Any other thoughts? Very good. Elena says they're giving their opinion about plastic bags, which is what the text is about, but they're not strongly showing this is the best text evidence. Okay. Or they are, but it's kind of just a little bit. So it could be a lot more where we show a lot more attention to the text evidence and how that text evidence is fact. For example, I'm looking at this one sentence. It says, United States uses 1 billion disposable bags every year, which is a very strong piece of evidence instead of using an opinion. But they need to embellish on that a little more. They need to dig into it a little more and kind of prove how that's the better supported argument. And I would agree. Any other thoughts before we kind of give this a grade here? I don't really see that they concluded much. The last sentence is text evidence, which again, we want the students to use, but we need them to also be able to take what's there and kind of pull from it and expand upon it. That's the word I've been looking for, expand upon what's there. So when we think back to the characteristics or the 3 traits, remember it's a total of 6. So out of, for 2 points, trait 1, creation of argument. Would you give this a 1 or a 2? And there's really no right or wrong answer. These are just things that I want to think about as we help our students become stronger writers. Would you give creation of arguments 1 or 2 points? 1. That was kind of my idea, thought as well. I would have given this student a 1. There's a lot of room for growth and, proving that argument, but I definitely see that they very particularly chose one side of the argument and tried to use some text evidence there. Okay. Elena also said it's very common for students not to understand the directions. I would wholeheartedly agree because this is a lot for our GED students. This is a big task for anyone really to do writing to this degree and follow these types of instructions. Let's look at trait number 2, development of ideas and structure. So development ideas, but we also want to pay attention to structure. Would you give this person a 1 or a 2? Everybody, I'm seeing a lot more 1s in the chat again. I would also agree. They did well. They indented. There's clear-cut paragraphs. There's transitional phrases. There's a clear-cut like hook at the beginning of it. And a very obviously stated, they picked a side at the end of the introduction, but there could be a lot more structure, especially sentence structure, as someone mentioned in the chat. So last but not least, clarity and conventions. Would we give this 0, 1, or 2? A 0, 1, or 2? Amanda says a 1. I had a harder time with this because it is an option for students to get a 0. I was kind of on the fence. And like I said, there's no right or wrong answers because we're not of course, the official graders of GED, but with clarity and conventions, there just seemed to not to be a clear thought process in a way of this is introduction, this is body paragraph 1. So everything in body paragraph 1 has to be about this same idea and that same piece of text evidence. Amanda says they seem like they did a lot better than others. I would wholeheartedly agree, especially when we start to look at student samples, which is going to be one of the next things we do. But thank you all for your feedback on these different traits. So GED.com score reports for instruction. So this might be something that you all are aware of, but we can use our GED manager accounts. And it's different at every agency who has access to what, but if your agency does not have access or you have questions about GED manager access, please contact Mallory Martinez at the DOE. Mallory Martinez at the FLDOE can work with your agency and helps with giving access to GED manager. But to locate your students' writing samples on the GED Ready test, which is the practice test, use your institution's GED manager account. Remember the GED Ready test? This is the practice. Students' writings are not scored. And this is really important information for us to know as educators and instructors and administrators. But it's also very important for our students to know when you take the GED practice reading test, your writing is not scored, but your writing sample, word for word, what you wrote is provided in GED Manager on the score report. And we're going to take a look in just a minute. Now on a GED final test, it's the exact opposite, vice versa. Okay. The score is shared. The student's writing sample is shared and using the rubric, but what they actually wrote is not shared. So it's the opposite. So as we try to look in and help our students and pinpoint their needs and instruction in regards to writing, these are things we need to hold into consideration. So we're going to look at an example student here. So I went to GED Manager, I did Manage Student, and I searched, and these are the results. This is a student I wanted to use as a student that no one knew that's already done and received his diploma. So you can see he took the reasoning here, got a 147, then decided to come back to the program quite a while later. He had some personal things happening and he did really well. This is his GED Ready test. So his practice score. I clicked on the little score report symbol there. This is really good for reading, but in the case of this webinar, we're focusing on writing. So down here, you can see where this student provided a writing sample. So even though his score was high, I wanted to provide him feedback, but this is really great, especially when your students don't do well, to look at their writing and provide them feedback. And then go over some of those lessons in GED.com and whatever other writing instruction you do. But this is a great way to give individualized writing instruction. We're not going to dig into his particular writing sample today, but again, you go to the score report, you scroll all the way to the bottom of the score report, and that's where their written response is located. Okay, now if we wanted to go to, let's say he took the real GED test, okay, and he did not do well. We need to provide some more instruction to close some of those gaps. That's not the case for this student, but I used him as an example. I'm going to click on the score report again. And I'm going to do the same thing. It's going to load here. You're going to see all the feedback for the reading instruction here. But then at the bottom, you're going to see writing. And again, now I've just moved over to the final exam. So now you can see that he actually was given a score. And it gives the students suggestions for things that they can improve and things that they could also include. Okay, things that you should also avoid. And it does that with all three traits. Trait 1, creating the argument using evidence. Trait 2, development of ideas and organizational structure. And then it also does it for trait 3. So you can see that this student scored a 2 out of a possible 6 points. Okay, and again, I found that on the score reports on the GED Manager account. Just want to make sure I didn't miss any comments in the chat. That's a really good question. Michelle Blanks said, do I do this myself or do I run this through AI? I would think either. As far as AI is concerned, I haven't really vetted personally. I haven't vetted any of them to see how they do. I would assume that you would want to load this rubric into AI. You'd want to give it examples of some really good scores so they knew what was a good score, what was a poor score. So to say personally right now, I grade it myself and I refer it back to different points in time throughout instruction. My different charts that I have on the wall, I give them some other resources and of course, teach it during whole group or small group as I see necessary, whether it's a practice test or a final exam. Okay, I just can't say with AI, I think it's a great personally, but it's definitely something to look into. Okay. So the next thing is digital literacy. So we've been talking a lot about writing, but another thing that really comes to mind for me when we're teaching our students writing for the GED is also digital literacy, because students are required, as you know, to type this. There's no pencil and paper anymore like there used to be. So they not only need to be able to write a 4 to 7 page or paragraph essay, but they also have to type it. And for some of our students, especially some of our students that have been out of school for a while, they might not be as technologically savvy as others. So this is something that I wanted to bring up. Here are just a few suggestions of activities for adult education students. And this is not just specific to GED for GED reading or GED RLA. This is in all aspects of adult ed, because they're working on all of these things at the same time, usually all of the subjects. Okay, so if you wanted to embed, these are ways you embed it into your existing lessons. So you don't create new content. You take the content you already have and you embed them into these platforms or these resources. So for example, Google or Outlook forms, having students submit work to you via Google or Outlook forms. Padlet or Mentimeter are a lot of fun. Not only does it get them used to using digital tools, but it's also a super fun way to engage your students. Games like Kahoot, quizzes, also a super competitive but fun way. They get little avatars and things like that, and classroom competitions. Again, doesn't have to just be for reading. It could be for math or science as well. Use Microsoft Documents. So have them practice typing in a Microsoft document, and they can attach it to an email and send it to you. They can type things into Google Slide and send them, share the document with you, or also having them type into platforms like Canvas and Blackboard and submitting work like that as well. Again, especially for the reading, we want them doing lots of, or the writing portion of the reading test, we want them to do lots of typing, because if they're trying to hunt and peck to find letters, that really escalates the stress level that students are under when they're already doing a time test. Okay, any other suggestions that you want to drop in the chat, please do. I'm always looking for new ways to, embed digital literacy into my classroom as well. So just something for you to think about on top of the actual writing assignment itself. All right, instructional strategies that improve writing performance. So these are just some things that are really going to help the students, maybe before you introduce the writing to them, if they're newer students, or even afterwards, once you kind of pinpoint some weaknesses that your students are having or that small groups of your students are having. So improving organization. So transitional phrases and paragraph structure. So before you even have them write an essay, you can identify transitional phrases and paragraph structures in the stories or in the text that you're already reading. They don't have to write it, just bring it to their attention in reading first. Teaching argument development. So talking to them about fact versus opinion. Okay, that is super relevant for the reading portion, the writing portion of RLA, but also in science and social studies. So you have a lot of content and text to you, different ways to show it to them. Identifying stronger evidence. So talking about fact versus opinion. Fact would be stronger evidence. Of course, it would be evidence, but also looking at bias in social studies, talking about, what's something that's usually I talk to them when there's numbers, years, dates. Those are going to be stronger pieces of evidence, or those are going to be my facts. If I'm seeing a lot of feeling words or a lot of opinion words or bias words, then those are not going to be facts. I don't want to use that as my stronger text, even though, because they're playing on my feelings. And a lot of times our feelings make us think that it's the better argument, and that's not always the case. So before I even introduce writing to my students, I always do fact, opinion, and then bias within social studies to help kind of set the groundwork for writing about it. We're going to read about it first. Okay. And then, as you guys already alluded to in the chat, we're going to support supporting language conventions. I'm going to do grammar mini lessons after I see my students. I'm going to look at commas, periods, sentence structure. We're going to do editing practice. So before I even want you to write it yourself, I'm going to be pointing out as we read text what is well in just a text that we're reading. Then I might do some editing practice. Then I might provide sentence stems. And these are all things that are going to make students feel more confident in their writing ability before I put a paragraph in front of them or a 4-paragraph essay in front of them. Is there any other instructional strategies that you have used kind of to build up to the writing portion of the RLA? Would love for you to drop them in the chat. And these are things too, I call it like it spirals into other areas. Or we can do a spiral review, especially with a grammar mini lesson. I can just do 10 minutes. Editing practice, that can be 10 minutes. I don't have to spend hours and hours at a time. I can just reintroduce a new, grammar rule or a new spelling rule. I love this, Amanda, starting to have them pull an outline out of passages, working backwards. So I love that. So work on an outline. So working backwards, that is a very good suggestion. And 2, consistency and multiple chances, right? Give them the opportunity to look at that perfect score. Give them another text that does really well. Another thing that I really like to do, I don't tell them who it is, but going back to GED Manager, I love to pull out strong examples from the class. And I say, one of your classmates wrote this. I don't tell them who. Or if I'm worried about making someone feel uncomfortable, even though I don't share the name, this is from a classmate in a previous term. Nobody knows who they are. What did they do well? It's another example of working backwards. What went well and how can we make this better? So like I said, really laying the foundation before I have them doing it at all. But again, I really like sentence stems. What are some transitional words or phrases? And have them memorize them. You don't have to keep switching it up. I want you to pick 3 transitional phrases and I want you to stick with them. I want you to pick an argument statement and I want you to stick with it. So these are also ways that if we help them memorize sentence stems that are part of those 3 characteristics or those 3 traits that they're working with on the rubric and have them memorize it, they're at least going to get some type of points. And usually, in my experience, I don't know if yours is the same, students are always a couple points away on the reading. It's a rigorous test. So if I can just give them, help them get 2 points, 3 points, or 4 points, then it's going to push them over into that passing score. Elena also said having them work with essay templates. And you said it better than me. Give them a template and have them use that same template every single time. And that's going to transition us from having a student staring down at that blank paper or that empty computer screen and saying, I don't know what to do. Well, I'm going to use this template and I'm going to plug in whatever that text, those particular texts are talking about. And I like that, Amanda. Preach. Those 6 points can do a lot. At first, 6 points doesn't seem like a lot out of 200, but when you start looking at your own student scores or students in other classes at your institution, a lot of times students are just a few points away from getting that passing score, or getting that score just a little bit higher to go into a trade program or go into a college class. So definitely we want to empower them. Hey, what can I show you to help push you over the edge? Or if it is a student who's strong in writing, let me show you explicitly what the expectation is using the resources we've talked about today. So practice prompts and classroom activities, just kind of getting close to the end and wrapping up here. I would love to hear your advice. These are practice prompts and classroom application, reputable practice writing prompts, Practice prompts should include 2 texts and be similar in length to the final exam. So as we're practicing with students, when it gets down to them actually practicing the writing and not the sentence stems and the grammar and such, we need to show them that there always will be 2 texts. We want to have the directions for them, and we want to make sure that they're an appropriate length and rigor of text. Okay, so in keeping that in mind, we want to make sure that we're vetting the resources we're using. So as I showed you, GED.com has several resources, but also a practice writing prompt with text you can use. I know Essential Education has free resources on their site. The Kaplan textbook has a text and prompts. If you have any more, please kindly share them in the text. Again, wanting to make sure they're vetted to be the correct length and have 2 of them with the instructions as the student's going to see on the GED Ready and final exam. Okay, so just some key takeaways for today. The GED extended response requirements and rubric. We reviewed that and where to locate it. We talked about a perfect essay. I didn't go over that in great detail, but I highly encourage you to go back and look at that perfect essay on GED.com and its scoring. We also did a sample essay as well, and we scored one together today. We talked about digital literacy and incorporating writing and digital literacy into our daily instruction. We talked about and looked at the use of GED Ready test score reports to guide instruction. So looking at the writing sample students provide on their GED practice test and how we can use that and build on that to make it better and better every time the student writes. We talked about some places to get instructional content. And we talked about some instructional strategies to boost student scores and confidence before they even pick up that pencil to write. What other things are we doing in the classroom as far as grammar, convention, pointing out good writing in the text that we're reading already every day? And then again, the practice prompts for classroom use, where we can locate some of those good resources that we can count on. So thank you so much for joining us today. If you'll hang tight, we would really appreciate you providing us with feedback to hear how we did and to see what you might want in the future. So there is a feedback survey, if you'll please do that for us. Also, Tech Tuesday next week. So Tech Tuesday, June the 16th at 1 p.m. We are having an AI assessment scale in Bloom's, Raising Rigor in Adult Education. So be sure to go on IPDA's website and sign up for that. Again, we thank you. Watch for these resources on IPDA's website as well, and then also their calendar of events for some upcoming webinars.